delight for me to meet Ellen at the pedicure place, and I felt so an immediate connection, as I'm sure all of you do. And I also was very inspired by the work that she's doing. So congratulations to all of you. I think this is a wonderful organization where you give each other support and love. I think it's wonderful. So I'm going to just introduce myself quickly, then I'm going to ask Maureen to introduce herself. And I also want to thank the person who did all the copies. What a wonderful job that is.
Yes,
thank you so much. Pardon?
The pay is good.
That was a lot of work. Thank you so much. Anyway, I am Dr. Liz Maloney, and I have a practice which is right near here. It's in the CEO office building. Do you know where that is? It's right across the street from the church.
Oh, yeah.
CEO office building. And I'm not going to talk much about it, but I do, in the back is there's a flyer that talks about my practice. And then I do individual, which my flyer talks about, and then I also do groups, compassion, self-compassion, self-care, and mindfulness women groups. Maureen and I do those, so there's a flyer in your packet about that. And of course, you're all very welcome. I want to introduce Sister Maureen, who is going to talk a little bit about her work as well. Maureen?
Thank you. My name is Maureen. I'm a sister of St. Joseph, and I've worked with eating disorders for 19 years down in New Jersey, so I understand a little bit about what a wonderful thing it is to have the support here, because the odds are really against you. You must already know that. I learned that as I was working with the women. I work at a place down in New Jersey for Catholic sisters who have all kinds of concerns in life, whether it's food or alcohol or whatever. And I gained a great respect for people who are struggling with weight, great respect, either undereating or overeating. And I learned to love the people down there and just to walk with them with their struggle, really, and learned a lot. So anyway, I didn't really know too much about the group at all, except what Lizzie told me. So I'm grateful to be here. So when I came back up from New Jersey, my sister worked with Liz, and she said to me, maybe you could work with Lizzie, because I've got all this experience doing stuff down there. And so then we started working together 2.5, 3 years ago, and we've been working together with these mindfulness groups ever since. And so I'm here to just share a little bit with you, what I do with the group and what we do together. Thank you. Wonderful.
And Maureen also is a wonderful blessing to me. Wonderful blessing to me. I've learned so much from her. And in a few minutes, you're going to be treated by her leading you in some of the Tai Chi that she's going to show you, which is a wonderful way to center ourselves. I just want to take a look at the first handout, which is called Path into Mindful Self-Compassion. Path into Mindful Self-Compassion. And because in our culture, there's an epidemic of being self-critical. We grow up kind of brainwashed that we're not good enough. We don't do the things. Yesterday, for example, I was walking my dog, and I was aware of my thinking, and I was aware of thinking, oh, I didn't walk her far enough. I wish, I should walk her further. All of those messages and thinking that are self-critical. And Tara Brach calls it, we have a trance of unworthiness oftentimes in our culture, where we think that we're not good enough. And basically what she says is, when we strive for perfection, that is a prescription for suffering. To strive for perfection is a prescription for suffering. Because obviously perfection is not possible in our world, in this world. And so what we need to do is to learn to be more compassionate with ourselves. And so that first handout talks about that, the path into mindful self-compassion. I just want to start off with a little story about a prayer that a woman was saying. And she said, "Dear God, so far today, I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't gossiped. I haven't been critical of others. I haven't been selfish or greedy. I haven't been jealous or overly self-indulgent. But in a minute, I'm going to get out of bed for the day. And then I'm going to need a lot of help." But again, it's all about the fact that we, in our culture, expect ourselves to be perfect. And yet, what the journey is to wholeness. The journey is not to perfection. The journey is to wholeness and loving. If we can love ourselves and be compassionate with ourselves, we can love others. And I learned this the hard way in my life, and that's why I feel very strongly about it. So this handout here that talks about, mindful. What is it to be mindful? To be mindful is to have a calm and concentrated awareness of one's thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. Okay? And then the self-compassion piece comes in where we are non-judgmental of any of that. Okay? We honor whatever we're experiencing. We honor it with compassion and warmth, okay? For example, whatever our emotions are, as we become aware of those emotions, we accept them and do not judge them. How many of us, like for example, have a difficult time with some emotions? I grew up in a great Irish family, and in my family, I felt that my particular family, that it wasn't okay to express sadness. And so what I learned to be afraid of sadness. And so therefore when I experience sadness, where that goes is I get scared. Oh no, I feel sad, there's something wrong with me that I feel sad, and I'm going to stay in the sadness, and it'll drown me, and I'll be in it forever because there's something wrong with me. What mindful self-compassion does is it says, there's sadness, and just honor it, okay? Another feeling in my family that was difficult for me was worry. My mother was a worrier. And I know that I tend to be that way. I'm very much like my mother, which I feel very grateful for. I loved my mother dearly. But she worried about health issues. And so I kind of, because I was so close to her, I became a worrier too. And so sometimes I'll notice, like I'll talk to my daughter, maybe in New York, who lives in New York, and she'll say something, and I'll go, well, I'll worry. And then I say, well, there's worry, there's worry. And just honor that worry. And it loses its power. In the past, I might have said, there's worry, and then I'd go to catastrophizing and, all of the terrible ways that we can go with our thoughts. But if we can just go, there's worry, then it loses its power. Now, this sounds so simple, but it is very profound. It's very profound. And the third piece, there's emotions, and then there's thoughts, and then there's physical sensations. And physical sensations, the same thing. There's pain, there's sickness. In fact, mindfulness encourages not to say, I'm sick, but to say, there's sickness. We want to get a space between what we're experiencing and who we are. It's about a space, okay? And what that does is, it helps us to understand that everything is impermanent in this world. Okay, it's impermanent. Emotions are impermanent. When I feel sad, I get scared because I think, oh, I'm going to feel it forever. No, nothing is permanent. When I get worried, I think I get scared. Oh my gosh, no, nothing is impermanent. Thoughts, even I do this now with my physical, whatever I feel. I go, well, there's discomfort, and it loses its power somehow. I'm not saying it's a miracle cure, but I'm saying that it can be very effective, okay? And when you look at the next handout, and I'm only going to talk somewhat, and then we're going to do a little tape that talks about this. But what it does, in the next handout is just kind of describes what mindfulness is. Okay, and mindfulness is becoming. Anybody in here have you heard of mindfulness? Anybody hear of it? Have you?
Yes.
Okay, because it's becoming much more commonly talked about in the medical profession. We have, and I'm going to talk about him for a second, John Kabat-Zinn, who is in UMass Hospital, has a whole wing of UMass Hospital for mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's incredibly good for our health, this mindfulness, okay? Very good. So I'm going to say that, okay? And as this handout says, and I know you can all read it, but I don't know about you, but I rarely read my handouts when I leave a conference. So I just want to touch about some of this.
Oh, we all read them.
Oh,
Every
you-
word, right?
Maureen and I were just talking about another thing we went to, and she said, "Did you read yours?" And no. Did you read yours? No. So we thought, well, let me just mention a couple things on here. Studies show that practicing mindfulness has a positive impact on our health and well-being, okay? And as I talk to this, medical centers are using it. It's very simple but very profound. What is it? It's a way of being, to embrace whatever arises within us just as it is. It's attention and awareness to the present moment. And I know I was watching Oprah Winfrey the other day, and they asked her, what's her, it's all about being in the moment. You know, that's, Oprah Winfrey talks about that, being in the moment. Well, that's mindfulness. So it's simply noticing our inner experiencing, our thoughts, our emotions, and our sensations without judgment, but rather with acceptance, kindness, and compassion. It's a revolutionary idea that we can have an observing self and an experiencing self, okay? And the experiencing self is experiencing a self-critical thought. Observing thought is looking at that and saying, there's a self-critical thought. I can believe it or I can let it go. So, and again, in the past we've used a lot of energy and exhausted ourselves trying to manage, control, fix, and dispute these inner experiences. The paradox is that these behaviors just make these experiences more entrenched and more crippling. When we over-identify and cling to our thoughts, emotions, or physical sensations, we in fact create more secondary emotions and thus more pain. And at the end of tonight, we're going to have time for questions. And Ellen, please let me know when it's time to do
Oh, I
that,
will.
because I want to respect the structure. So it says, with mindfulness, sustaining non-judgmental attention to our pain, whatever it is, helps us to normalize it and make it less scary. There's no evaluation, no striving to fix anything, no judging. It's compassion, kindness, acceptance, openness. We're talking about our internal experiencing, okay? We're not talking about the way other people behave, okay? I'm not saying that, we're going to accept people that are not treating us properly. That's a whole other thing. We're talking about accepting and loving what we're experiencing inside us and not losing ourselves. I lost myself in a verbally abusive relationship because I was so focused on keeping that other person calm that I lost a sense of who I was. And the whole goal of mindfulness is to be aware of who we are so that we make better choices. We do make better choices if we practice mindfulness. So, I just want to mention about, should I stop?
Yes. we're
Yeah,
gonna
just
stop
let me
there.
stop.